office trends. That's the topic of today.
Yes.
I guess we're sitting down to talk. And nice to have you here, Robin.
Thank you for inviting me.
Who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, so thank you very much for the invitation. I'm Robin Wycherleyn, and I'm a workplace designer, and I run Itu Design. And we help companies plan their offices. So often when they're going through a change, either renovating their workspace or moving to a new office. So everything office design is what we are doing.
Yeah, and my name is Niklas. I work for Cushman Wakefield, and I'm letting out office premises in Helsinki. So I think we have a lot of combination points within our works.
Absolutely.
Both involves quite often a company getting a new premise, new office, and what's needed, how does it work, and so forth. So different perspectives and different viewpoints on the market and trends maybe, or maybe not, but quite similar kind of area where we work.
Definitely, yeah. Same kind of customer base, but I'm sure we're having quite a different perspective on what's going on. So interesting to see where the overlap is. And
yeah, absolutely true. I would say the biggest trends in the market now, of course, driven by the work-life change post-COVID, during COVID, that people are working more and more from home. We are seeing that there is less and less people in the office, of course, and now the big trend is that companies are moving into smaller units because you don't need that much of office space because nobody's there, so to say.
Yep.
And we also see that affects the location. You could be able to afford a nicer location, or you want another location which is more accessible, or nicer lunch places, or whatever reasons it might be. And of course we are seeing all the time also like differences in how the premises look like. But I would say the big trends is moving into smaller units, nicer smaller units than before.
Yes. We are seeing exactly the same, actually. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
We're seeing exactly the same. So I think during the last couple of years, there was obviously a lot of discussion going on, and we were working with companies to make relatively minor adjustments to their current workplaces. But I've noticed already this year there seems to be like a big move to actually take bold decisions and really radically reduce the size of office. And I'm interested actually when you're talking about a reduction in the size of office, about how much are you seeing? Is it like half of the space that they were renting previously?
I would say, first of all, not everybody is downsizing, of course, in the office. That there are companies that are upscaling or upsizing as well, but vast majority is downsizing, and I would say a typical downsize is somewhere between 25 to 50% if we look at the square meter size of the office. Work desk wise, it might be even more, just because if we say that half of the people are working half of the time in the office, and if it's spread out evenly during the days, you can really put down the work desk size. And then of course a reason why to come to office is not to sit alone at your work desk anymore. It's more of the teamwork and so forth, which I'm sure you know a lot about how that affects the office and the size needed for a new kind of office. So, but that's the number I would say, approximately.
Yeah, we're seeing pretty much the same kind of numbers. And you mentioned you're working with companies who are looking to increase their office size. And to be honest, at the moment, I don't think we have any cases like that at all. So in pretty much every case, there seems to be some kind of reduction in leasing area. Yeah. Quite often, it's that same range from 25% reduction to 50%. Yeah. And this is, of course, the customers we're working with, generally they're quite smaller office spaces. Yeah. So companies ranging anywhere from 10 people to up to 100, 200, something like that. So we're not doing the sort of 10, 20,000 square meter office very much. So my kind of insight is more into the 500 to 2,000 meter range. Yeah. And in those areas, we're often seeing reduction by around half. So
that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I mean, if we think about people moving their homes, if you upsize or downsize, rarely you double up or halfway down.
It is, yeah.
It's quite, big changes we're talking about.
It is, yeah. So quite brave moves. But then, of course, that's having huge benefits when it comes to budget and saving money, and that has the knock-on effect then that the actual leasing price can be raised quite dramatically.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's quite simple mathematics. If you downsize the square meters into half, you can basically afford, double square meter price cost, and it's the same. And I mean, double is not really typical to double up the cost, so it's somewhere just a little bit
like
higher.
A 50% increase or something like that. Yeah.
Then you still kind of save money.
Save money at the end of the day. Yeah.
Even if we do not see any an economical stress about the future, companies are not looking that. They're still quite positive about the future. But of course, in uncertain times, it's always nice to kind of be able to save a little bit and kind of have something for the rainy day instead. So
it sounds like a familiar story to exactly what we're seeing.
Yeah.
And of course, with those rental savings comes the possibility of using some budget to make the office, give it some kind of wow factor. And whilst most companies, they generally seem quite flexible about how people are working, it seems that they also want to create a better office environment to try and attract their workers in, because they do see a benefit to bringing people together. And that's reflected in the kind of brief that we're being given as well. So it's quite common for us to be converting areas of open plan workspace, which used to be planned out to give individuals the kind of ideal, sort of optimal setup to do their individual tasks. And now those are being removed. Not all of them, of course, but quite large areas are being removed, and we're replacing them with more collaborative spaces. So more flexible zones, team rooms where you can get together with your colleagues and kind of create together
rooms.
And teams rooms, for video conference calls. So.
No, but I hear you, and I like. Actually, I think it was a TikTok video or somewhere I saw somebody comment talking about this issue, and it's kind of like you need to give a reason for the employee when the employee wakes up at home and thinks about, should I go to the office or stay at home? What's in it for me? And the boss forcing you to come to the office is not an answer to that. There's no value in it. So either you need something, and nice, I think that has changed a little bit. It doesn't need to be luxurious. It just needs to be nice in somehow. It can be very different ways in nice. I'm sure you know more than me about this, but also it needs to be a functional place. And one of the big reasons why we have offices, of course, some people come to work there silent, alone in their own room. But if we think about something that you're not really able to do in teams, is teamwork and meeting your colleagues and getting that hidden information kind of out and shared, or creating stuff personally. I don't like creating stuff with a team in a Teams, because it just doesn't have the flow. And there to kind of support that, I'm sure what you said, that it's changing the office. And the worst thing that could happen kind of is, for me, I have a half-hour drive from home to the office. To drive to the office and then sit in a Teams meeting with colleagues that are at home, it feels like, there's no point in that.
Absolutely,
So,
and you're certainly not the only one with those same kind of frustrations. And that's actually quite often part of the brief that we are being given by our clients, that they want to try and create an environment that their employees can identify with and attracts them to the space, so that it's not about making rules and forcing people to come to work a certain amount of hours. But of course they see huge benefits when they do bring people in the same space.
No, I believe strongly in that, and it's something we see, and of course it's something we see also in the way that when a company starts looking for premises, they have an idea that's usually based on how they have it now. And then during the process, when looking for offices and even coming to they find a nice office, and for example you are doing a layout for them or something, and the first layout is quite often changing to the second stage, because it wakes up ideas like, how do you want this? How do you want to work now? And that's kind of the starter for many companies. Like, we have changed. What do we need to do to kind of embrace that change? And how do we get this to work? And
that's a really valid point. That quite often an organization will come to us or come to you with their list of requirements of what they believe their needs are, and we've seen this with a couple of cases together recently, and then the final solution is actually radically different to what they thought they needed in the first place, but it's only going through that design process that they start to understand that, and as you say, it wakes up their ideas.
I think that's like very natural that when you start buying something, you have a certain idea and you're not really into it yet, and then during the buying process you think about it and you come up with new solutions or new problems or new possibilities or something. So
and you discover stuff that you didn't know was even an option at the start of the process.
No, that's and as I've said to many people before, I think my job is a lot more interesting now than it was a few years ago, because then the office trends were everybody had very similar, like what they wanted, so to say, and now there's a lot of differences between companies, between employees, between what they need, what they want, what they think they want, what's possible. So it's kind of like, you know, problem solving without having a problem as such, maybe, but still making it better.
Agreed, yeah. And I've noticed the same actually. So 5 or 10 years ago, the work we were doing, I guess the pressure to get the design right wasn't so great as it is now. Quite often the solutions are more generic. It was about branding an office space with the company's brand and creating a pleasant environment to work in. But now the nuances are much more kind of fine when it comes to getting the design right. So the look and feel, it's less about actually matching the company's brand, but more about connecting with the kind of brand that their employees see themselves as having, especially for younger people, so that they can associate themselves and connect with the space where they work, and it becomes almost part of their personal identity. So this becomes something which is used then for attracting new employees as well. So
interesting that you say it. Actually, when I'm thinking back, I have a feeling like previously when you were looking for an office, it was a very numbers driven process. You were looking for efficiency, you were looking for, you know, all kind of different numbers that were needed to be on a certain level and good, with price being of course one of them, but it's price per desk or price per employee or whatever meter you have. But now the discussions we have, of course the price is still very relevant, everybody loves a good deal, but the discussions are more about other things, softer values, so to say, like how do we create a place where employees are willing to spend their time, or they are really feel like it's, you know, it's nice for them, or provide solutions for them, you know, being able to do their work properly. Like, I mean, if we look at many companies have usually kind of the older persons maybe have, you know, kids might have left from home, they have a big house, empty office room, it's silent, and then you come to work, you know, instead of sitting home alone, you go to work to, you know, see people. But then we have a lot of other people that might have be, you know, having kids at home, family at home, whatever, and a small efficient home with no really own office room. You are sitting in the kitchen, then you want to come to the office, to a silent place.
Yeah, because you just have to come to the office in that case, So and that's something which is important that we don't forget, because quite often when we're doing work with organizations which are mainly made up of knowledge workers, normally the kind of focus is to create on these sort of collaborative spaces where people can come together and work together. But it's easy to forget that actually for some people, this idea of coming to work to collaborate, it's not necessarily always the case. They might just be coming there because they need a place where they can sit and focus as well. So
and I'm sure, I mean, my work consists of the Helsinki region, where typically people live quite small. Offices might be quite efficient. If you go elsewhere in the country, it might look a little bit different, the needs, but no, but it's very interesting.
Absolutely. How are you finding that this kind of downsizing and cost saving, or maybe not cost saving, but downsizing is affecting the location of where people are looking? Is it that they are moving to more central locations, or how is it going?
Or I would say I mean, I think the definition of a good location has changed. It used to be like the best location is kind of where we are not Aleksanterin Katu or somewhere the most expensive streets, but it doesn't necessarily need to mean that. Of course, there's still benefits for certain companies to be in the CBD of Helsinki, but I think location also means it's a convenient location. You can get there and out of there easily, or then, for example, that you have cafeterias or lunch places, restaurants where you can invite your customers close to your office. Instead of, I mean, if you invite somebody to an office, it's a bigger step than let's go and have a lunch and then good restaurant. And if it's close to your office, then you will spend the rest of the day at the office because you are there anyways already. Or then just simple examples, during working from home during COVID time, many people get used to doing home chores during the day. Is it doing the laundry, running to the food store or whatever? And that's kind of stuck that if you have the possibility during your lunch break to go and buy an extension cord at some store instead of driving in the evening to that store back and forth, it's more convenient for you. So yes, many offices or many companies are looking for better locations, but better doesn't necessarily always mean more like the old best locations.
Right.
Yes, the old best locations still are considered the best locations, but it's not for everybody. Very simply that you can, for example, you move from, I don't know, Pitäjänmäki to Pasila, or you move from Leppävaara to Keilaniemi, or just the next step somewhere. It might be very different reasons.
Yeah, so improved connections and then better services on the doorstep as well. Yeah.
Yeah, or then just as we know, like very few employees have a home with a sea view, but you have offices with a sea view. So for some that might be nice to come to an office where you have a sea view. Yeah. Just because it's nice to look at.
So I suppose good location depends case by case.
Absolutely, absolutely. But it depends very much. And I mean, I've been a long time ago. I had a comment about the sea view, for example, that we don't pay our employees to look at the sea. You wouldn't hear that kind of comment anymore today.
Yeah, it would be part of the well-being program that everybody could spend time looking at the sea. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I'm a colleague of Niklas, Sakari, and work as a broker as well. So basically I was listening you guys talking about these office trends, and I was just thinking if I was a client, and I just thinking my office strategy totally different, and the main point should be my next office has one thing it just have to have, and it's fun. You have just, I give you a task that next office should be fun. So how would you like to do that?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and quite often we are getting that exact request that people want offices which have some kind of element of fun. And of course it's important to define what that means, because for some people fun could just mean that the design is in some way playful, that it's colourful or includes some unusual elements or something like that, and it's some way stimulating for the workers. And then for other people fun might actually literally mean fun, that you get ping pong balls or foosball tables or something like that. So I think it's really important to understand on a kind of organizational level what they mean by fun and what their aim is. But I think for many it's about having an office which is kind of quite relaxed and homely and comfortable. So having fun and enjoying the workplace, it can mean also kind of being comfortable and able to be focused and be productive because of that. So we're seeing, I think from a kind of office design trend point of view, we're seeing a lot of kind of natural elements and nature being used. So we can see in this cafe where we're in now a lot of green and dark woods and stuff like that being used, and a lot of nature tones. Then the other trend we're seeing a lot of, I'm getting attacked by a plant here. Having real plants in offices is something which is coming more and more common. Maybe this doesn't sound too fun, but and then I guess as well, like the overall sensory experience in the office as well. So more and more organizations are starting to use like specific fragrances in their workplace, just like they might do in a high-end store or something like that, to give kind of mood and feeling. So this kind of sort of overall environmental design is
I was thinking that if you remote work and you just do your silent work at home, then office could be a place where to pump up and give you some energy for like in the middle of the week. So I think
definitely.
It could be quite nice.
And I think it works that way for a lot of workers. So, and we see that with the kind of requests for a lot of collaborative spaces. And we're often asked for those spaces to be fun as well. So in some way, like energizing. So they might have some kind of fun elements, or also spaces which are kind of customizable, so that the users can have an effect and move things around easily, or kind of change the setup. Have you come across some unusual kind of ideas when it comes to making fun spaces?
I was thinking that could there be, or have you ever planned an office where are zero working station, like desks, no desks with adjustable height and with the correct working chair, just with none of those. Just
not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. But it would be radical. Yeah.
But how do you find that? Could it be nowadays? Could it be like a possible solution?
It's not impossible at all. Yeah, especially I think for an organisation where the workers are more mature, so a kind of organisation of knowledge workers, so maybe kind of sales office or something like that, or someone who's doing a lot of development work, but where knowledge workers are doing a lot of individual work and they're more mature, it often means they've got a really good space to do that at home, like a spare bedroom. I know of some companies where a lot of their staff have been working from nukkis like the whole summer or something like that, working from their cabin. So an organisation where you don't necessarily need to provide space for individual focus work, then why not have an office which is just purely collaboration zone, and if you have something to focus on, do it somewhere else. If you want to see people and have fun and engage, then why not?
Okay, just fresh idea how to do this, because I'm just curious if maybe this year or next year do an office where is zero working stations.
Zero workstations, it's possible. And I'm really curious to see the way that the trends change as well, because on one hand, we might see that offices continue to become more fun and more relaxed and more about collaborative work, and also more close to the aesthetic of like homes and cafes like we're seeing at the moment. So it's quite hard to sometimes tell whether a photograph is of a workspace, of a cafe, of an office. Like maybe for people watching this video, it's not immediately obvious, are we in, well, maybe the coffee gives it away, but whether we're in a cafe, whether we're in your office or someone's home. So I'm really curious to see, does the trend continue that way? Or at some point, are we going to see a complete reversal of that trend? And I'd like to think we are, because I think it might kind of change dramatically, and not this year or next year, but in 10 or 20 years' time, maybe we'll see offices kind of reversing, so that it's more like
opposite of the fun.
Exactly, so that people want to have like a clear aesthetic for home and free time, and then when they go to the office, they want it to be kind of really sharp, really minimal, space age kind of feeling. So exact opposite of homeliness that we have now.
Yeah, but I think there could be possible to company to have like two separate offices. Like if they now have like 1,000 square meters, they can like make 300 square meters offices. One office, the fun office, and one is the serious office.
Why not? Yeah,
that could be one solution.
Yeah,
and it's good for us, of course.
Of course, yeah. And I think for quite a lot of companies, they're looking at having a kind of hub and spoke system. So where the kind of head office, which used to be 5,000 square meters in a central location, it could just be a few hundred square meters, and that could be kind of super branded, really extreme location and extreme facilities. So it's something which is like really kind of calling card for the company. And then smaller offices which are in the suburbs or surrounding area, which are handy for people to get to, or they could even be co-working spaces, for example, as well. So
how do you see that location-wise? This like serious office could be like in very central location where it's easy to come.
Why not? Yeah.
And the other one, the fun office, could be like in a bit like special area.
Absolutely, yeah. Could well be, yeah. And I think we're going to see more and more like radical solutions, because now when everything's changed so much that suddenly there's been this kind of huge acceleration to home working, hybrid work, and suddenly the need for this kind of huge amount of square meters in one location, suddenly that's gone, and it remains to be seen really exactly what that's going to be replaced with. As we were talking with Niklas, it's quite clear that the first step is maybe to reduce the size of that head office or main office, but then what else could come, that remains to be seen, I think.
Yeah. All right. I think that's from the fun and serious aspect.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah, okay.
Good question.
Have you heard any trends from abroad, from New York, London, or something unusual?
Yeah, I guess kind of globally the trend is towards flexibility in where people can work, and that's something which has been happening more elsewhere than in Finland at the moment. So I can't remember what the statistic was, but a phenomenal amount of new office buildings which are being constructed in London, for example, are being purpose-built as co-working buildings rather than a headquarters building. So there's no main tenant for those buildings, well, apart from maybe some co-working organization. So I think that's perhaps a trend that Finland is going to pick up on more and more. And I think that idea of this kind of third space is something we hear people talking about a lot. So in Finland, I think everybody is generally talking about this idea that hybrid means you can either choose to work at home or then you make a trip to the office. And the idea of the third space is that there could be somewhere between that, where you get some of the benefits of an office. So maybe the facilities are better and you can work in more comfort, or maybe there's some kind of social element there. But at the same time, you don't have to go all the way to the office, which might be quite a trip for you. So having co-working spaces which are kind of in the suburbs or in the kind of outlying towns could become something which we see more of in Finland. And I wonder as well, in like going many years into the future, could it be that knowledge workers who are living maybe in rural locations or a little bit out of the city, maybe they have a co-working where they go, and the people there are kind of as important to them as their colleagues. So it could be that they are like socializing with a co-working community, which they stay with for like many years, even if their actual employer change. So it could become like that you don't necessarily work with your colleagues, but other professionals. So
there could be some beneficial opportunities as well.
Yeah, definitely. Probably terrifies the security guys.
Okay, that's quite interesting.
Yeah, and so thinking like of the workspace as kind of a community space.
I was thinking that it's not very usual in Finland, because a lot of my clients are like they're focusing on one location and thinking about the remote work, but there's, I think, zero conversation about this third space. Maybe there could be some potential to put that idea in their mind. So that's because it sounds quite quite beneficial, of course.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think elsewhere it's also a case that corporations are kind of sponsoring this kind of thing. So it means that if an organization with a big hub in a city center decides to reduce that to, I don't know, 20% of what it used to be, then with that saving, they can also provide co-working passes for all their staff, so they can just go and work freely wherever they want. So
Yeah,
I think we're going to see much more of that.
yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah,
Change is good.
yeah, definitely.
Okay, so maybe a little bit of summarization.
Yeah,
What we talked about. Well, I mean, if I start from the kind of bigger picture,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's correctly said, but I'm thinking like at the where we are right now, so much of big changes has been happening in work life and how we work and well, also the other crisis and economy, looking forward and everything. So I think following the big trend in downsizing into something nicer is like a very kind of easy, it's always dangerous to use the word easy, but easy way to kind of refresh your organization, and at the same time you are able to, you know, provide what the employees want. You take your company a step forward. Maybe you lure better people to work. You keep the good people at work, and at the same time you might be able to achieve some cost savings.
yeah.
So it's kind of like a no-brainer.
It sounds absolutely like a no-brainer. Yeah,
I understand that moving is also always, you know, moving. Nobody likes moving at home, but there's a reward for it. It's just not moving for, you know, because of moving. There's like many big points and big wins to be achieved with
There are a huge
relocating at
amount.
the moment.
yeah, huge amount of wins.
Yeah, and I also think like if we look at offices from the inside, somebody has found you have a clean canvas to kind of make it suit not only the functionality but also the emotional, like how it feels. And maybe you have a better view on this, but I often feels like a new office is a clean canvas, whilst as kind of trying to change the current office is a lot more difficult oftentimes.
That's very true, yeah. So having a new location, it can be something which is really inspiring for employees and gives them something to motivate them. And as you say, it's something which can also be really helpful when attracting new talent to a company. And that's the feedback we've been getting from our customers. So I think your idea that a change is a no-brainer when you can save money, get a better location, make your employees happy. And I think it's at a time as well when employers are expecting to see some kind of change as well. Because there's been so much talk of this radical shift in working habits during the last 2 years, that maybe there needs to be some change in the physical setup for a company, so that their workers aren't disappointed.
Yeah, no, I believe that strongly, and we see it. I mean, I think both you and I see it in our line of work, that how it changes and what possibilities it gives, and when you talk to people just in general, there's been a lot of time to think about your life and think about your future, and that's been kind of the big question, like how, I mean, for the last, of course, nobody has ever known what the future looks like. Nothing new there. It's as uncertain as it has been ever before, but maybe many people have had more time to kind of reflect and think about their own future and life and what do they want to do, and you know, it needs to happen in the office as well.
For sure, yeah. And I think we're noticing that organizations that have been going through that process of kind of taking stock and considering what their future office should be like. It seems now that they're actually taking action, many of them. But also I know of many companies who are reluctant to take action. And I think part of the issue is that maybe you're finding the same, that our customers, they're quite often country managers or leaders of organizations, or then they're CFOs or HR directors, but people who are generally very busy in their work, and they are not experts when it comes to workplace projects. Maybe they've never been in an organization that's gone through that sort of change, and those are the ones that it's kind of the most fun to help, because we give them the most value. So if we need some strong call to action at the end of this video, I guess being in touch with one of us is the next step for
and I'm sure you as well, happy to talk, happy to sit on a coffee and just generally chat about these things with anyone.
Absolutely.
And then I mean, I understand it's our work, we live that life, but as you said, it's not everybody's life, and not many people are thinking about that, and it's always, change is a little bit scary in life in general, but you know, we provide support for that, and we answer questions. We might not always have the right answer. We need the input of, you know, the company and whoever is deciding in that company, how that is like combined with the culture and the, you know, the way that company works. That's the ultimate thing that needs to be combined. So we need everybody around the table, so to say. But I think it's interesting times we're living in, and as I said, feels like a no-brainer to make decisions at the moment.
Agreed.
Thank you, Robin, and it was nice talking with you, and maybe we'll chat in the future again.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm sure we will. This was great to catch up, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this year brings as far as interesting new cases. We've certainly got plenty on the go at the moment, and looking forward to the next one. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I could go on forever, but I know we're trying to end this. But I mean, this spring and this year is going to be super interesting. So maybe we can talk about that next time a little bit. What's happening right now and so forth. But yeah,
sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to Sakari as well.
Yeah, thank you.